Work on this question. Week 6, problem number 1. Find it in front. Hopefully you found it already. Dealing with cell phones. Somebody help me out and tell me. I know it says like plan 1, plan 2, plan 3. So I know that much. Somebody give me some explanation for plan 1. What's it say about plan 1?
Monthly fee is $0. Minutes includes none. And cost over monthly fee is 0.08 minutes.
So that's
Or 0.05.
That's per minute, right? 8 cents per minute. Each one of you should know something about this. We're going to talk about cell phones. I have a cell phone, but I never use it. And you guys probably all have cell phones and use them a lot. All right, not everybody. I know my sons, they don't have cell phones. Should you know how to figure this up? Yeah, short of your parents, because every one of you probably has. They pay for it, right? Unless you've got in trouble. Emily, they don't pay for it?
I pay for it.
Do you? So you should probably understand when you go to pick out a cell phone, you got to keep an eye on what they charge you. Because if you don't, then you end up paying some silly bill for no reason. What's plan 2 tell us?
Its monthly fee is $29.99. Its minutes included are 1,000, and its cost over monthly fee is 3 cents per minute.
Per minute, it's 3 cents. How about plan 3? What did it tell us?
The monthly fee is $39.99 with 5,000 minutes and 5 cents a minute.
Now, this is where they get a lot of you guys. Just because this has got the most minutes, does that mean it's the best plan?
No.
Just because this has no monthly fee, does that mean it's the best plan?
No.
You walk into some Verizon or whatever, and they'll have big signs up, no monthly fee. Well, that's great, but if you use a lot of minutes, even though it's only 8 cents per minute, is that still going to cost a bunch? Yeah, probably so. You walk in, they'll get you on that one the first time. Then the next time they'll say, "Oh, you need this plan where you get 20,000 free minutes," and they charge you $60 a month for it. Is that always a good thing? I use maybe 50 minutes per month. We'll use.
415.
So he used 415 per week. Well, they don't charge you by the week. What do they charge you by? The month. So what would we have to do to that to figure out? Times it by 4. Somebody help me out. How many minutes does Raul use each month then?
1,660.
Good. So he uses 1,660 minutes. Is that out of the question? Anybody, you guys ever actually, Emily, you look at your bill and see how many minutes you use?
No, not really ever look at it.
Because you probably got an unlimited plan, I bet, don't you? And again, unlimited plans are good sometimes, not so good other times. Depends on what you're using your phone for, what you're doing with it. So he uses 1,660 minutes per month. All you're going to do with this, and this is part of what we're going to do today, what you're going to learn today, we're going to write an equation for each one of these. And that equation is going to be a line. If I can write it up here. And if I remember what form that is. Very good, slope-intercept. Slope-intercept form. What two things do we need to know to write an equation in that form? Slope, y-intercept. We need to know the M and the B. When you're doing some real life situation like this, the B is the easiest thing to find. That's where you start at. All right, it's always where you start. Now, a line doesn't actually start anywhere, correct? Because it goes on and on forever in both directions. But that's what we consider. It's where you start at. Where does plan one, where does this bill start at? 0. So when I write this, it's going to be y equals something times x plus 0. B is where you start. The M is how things change. Maybe you're paying a mechanic to fix your car. You take the car to the mechanic, right away they charge you what? $50, $75 for looking at it or hooking it up to a computer or whatever they do, right? So that's this, that's B. Then after that, is that all they charge you?
Yeah.
No, they figure out what's wrong with it and they say, all right, I'm going to fix it, and they figure out how many hours it's going to take them to fix it, and they charge you per hour. Well, what's our per hour instead of per hour this time? For a cell phone is what? Per minute, and that's our slope. That's how much the thing changes over the time. Do I really need that 0 out there? So you could write this y equals 0.08x. Let's write an equation for the next one. Which question do you?
Is it okay if we wrote M? That's what I did. For the,
Here?
no, for,
Here?
yeah.
Yeah. So Ethan brings up a good point. I put x and y in here because I wanted to connect this back to algebra last year. Could you have put m right here, and what would m have stood for? Minutes. So you could have put m there, and it might have made more sense. Probably if you put m there, you're probably not going to put y here. What might you put there? Cost, total, TC, price, I don't know, whatever. Whatever you want it to be. What's my equation for this next one going to be? Y equals what? What's my m this time?
Y equals 0.03. $20,000.
29 and 49.
So that's an equation for that one. How about the last one? What's a good equation for this last one?
Y equals 0.05 x plus 39.99.
So we've written our equations. Do we know which one's best for Raul though? Can we just look at it and say, oh, plan 3's got to be the best because it gets all those free minutes? What normally happens to those minutes, Raul only uses about 1,700.
Still costs. Still got
He's still got like 3,000 some, right? What happens to him at the end of the month?
They carry, don't they carry those?
Some of them do.
Yeah, that's,
Not always though, right? Especially if you're on something like this. If most all of you are on unlimited, well, there's no such thing as unlimited because it says unlimited and then they put a cap on it. Anybody ever figure that out? If it says unlimited, they put some cap on it, and if you go over that, they charge you a whole bunch of money. All right, so you might want to make sure when it says unlimited, know what the unlimited stands for, because right, it'd be something like that. And other plans actually say, if you go over this, we're going to charge you 20 cents for every minute, just to try to get you. All right, so you got to really watch out for some of this stuff. How can we figure out how much each one's going to cost for Raul?
take X and put it with the total name.
All right, so somebody help me out here and tell me how much this plan, what's 0.08 times 1660? Just sticking in for X right there. How much is this plan going to cost Raul?
$132
And 8 cents?
Yep. Or 80 cents.
80 cents? It comes out like that on the calculator, right? What do you got to put back here? Put to make it money, put a 0 back here. So it costs Raul, if he was to take this plan, $132.80. Now, didn't that plan look good at the beginning? Hey, no monthly charge. They're not charging me $30 or $40 for this every month. Does it look so good now? Doesn't look real good now, $132. I don't know, some of you are looking like, yeah, what's wrong with that? If I paid $132 a month for my cell phone, I'd be highly upset. My whole family paid $132 for all their cell phones. Well, I shouldn't say my whole family pays for them. If I pay all that for all their cell phones, I'd be really upset. How are we gonna figure out this one?
Y equals 0.03 times 1660 plus 29.99.
So somebody plug that in calculator and tell me what this plan's.
79.
Oh, hold on. We put in 1660 there?
Yeah.
What'd they tell us about this plan?
Just do 1,000 feet.
He gets 1,000 free minutes on this, so is he gonna pay for all 1660? How many is he gonna pay for? He only pays for 660 minutes. So that's what we stick in there for X. So somebody help me out, and what's 0.03 times 660 plus $49.79? Everybody agree with that? Oh, what happened? Yes. Yes. How in the world did it do that? $49.79? Somebody give me the other price. Our equations disappeared. I don't know what happened. What was this other price again? $132.80? I don't understand how half the page disappeared and the other half didn't. Doesn't make any sense. Because I'm trying to. Let's just hurry up and get it through. What was this one? $49.79? How about this last one? What's it gonna cost me?
No, I don't understand. He's only using 1660.
So he only uses 1660, so is he gonna get charged extra? So do we have to, what do we put in place of X there?
0.
0. Because how many minutes does he get charged for? 0, because he's got 5,000 free, doesn't use that many, right? So he got, if that's 0, how much total is it then? $39.99. So which plan's best for Raul and Life? Plan 3 would be the best. This is the actual OGT question from a few years ago. If you did all of that we've done on there, they would give you 3 out of 4 points, because at the end, they want you to explain why. And just to say it's best because it's cheaper, that's not the explanation they want, right? How come that plan's better for Raul than the other 3?
Because you don't have to pay.
He doesn't get charged, he doesn't use enough minutes to where he gets charged for them. That's what you should write out, something along those lines.
You want these?
Yeah. Number 12. They tell you that a hill, and this is the way they write stuff. If you go someplace that has real big hills, we don't have many around here, so the truck drivers don't really have to worry about it. But if you go down Kentucky, Tennessee, out west, they have signs up along the road that says 8% grade, 12% grade, 4% grade, telling the people going up and down the hill what the grade of the hill is. Anytime you see a percentage, what's the fraction that goes along with that? 8 out of 100. Does that look like a slope? What's that reduced to?
2 out of 25.
2 out of 25. That's our answer. 2 out of 25.
13.
So we want to do 13 too. 13 goes right along with that problem. Emily S., you with me? After riding the trail 120 meters below her original, sorry, so on, so on, so on, so on. You can read it if you want. I'm just going to draw it up here. They tell us that this young lady was riding this bike. She started at the origin there. And she went down 120 meters. They want to know how far over she went to get that far, how far down the hill she went. Well, that's our slope, rise over run, but problem is we don't know what it is out to there. And the other part that we don't know, do we know she went out this way? Which other way could she have went out?
Other side.
Could have went out this way, right? So we're looking for the coordinates of those 2 points right there.
So will this just be like Pythagorean theorem?
You don't have to use Pythagorean's theorem. If you wanted to actually find the distance that she rode, then you'd have to use it. We don't need to here. All we want to find is how far this way she was.
Would you put
So first, this 120, that's a negative 120 because she was going down, right?
Yep.
What's going to go right here then? Negative 120. What goes right here? Negative 120. And what we got to find is those two distances, but they should be the same. How far over she went, whichever direction she went. Well, the way we're going to do that is by using our slope. And I could do this. I'm probably not going to do this, but I could. She went up to, how far over did she go? 25. If she went up, or I'm sorry, down 4, how far over did she go? 50. If she went up 6, or I keep saying the wrong thing, down 6, how far over did she go? 75. Down 8, how far over? 100. Down 10, how far over? 125. Well, I could keep doing that until I get to 120 on top. Do you really want to go out that far and make it that difficult? So what you could do is set up a proportion. 2 over 25, what number do we want here?
120.
120.
Over 100, right?
Now,
Over X.
we don't know the bottom, so we just call it
That's
X.
supposed to be a 25, right?
Oops, yeah, that should be 25, my fault. Yeah, I said 25.
Yeah.
Now what do we do?
Cross
Cross multiply. With some proportions, it's easier if you don't cross multiply. What do you got to do to 120, or to 2 to get to 120? Times it by 60. Guess what you're going to do to the bottom then? Times it by 60. So in other words, it's saying we'd have to do this 60 times if I went out that pattern to come up with how far it is. Somebody help me out. What's 25 times 60? 1,500. So is this right here 1,500?
Yeah.
It's close.
Negative.
That one's a negative. What's this one over here? That one's a positive. So those are the coordinates of the 2 points. We know that she was riding her bike down through here. I have to show off my great artistry. She was riding her bike down through here, and she got to either that ordered pair, or if she was going down the other way, that one. Now again, does that tell us how far she rode?
No.
No. We could use what, Kyle?
Pythagorean theorem.
Could use Pythagorean's theorem. This squared plus this squared should equal how far she actually rode squared. We don't want to go through all that.
So the bottom line is 1,500.
Right. That's how far left or right she went, depending on which way she actually rode. And that's all they asked us for. They said she went down 120. How far over did she go? And it's 1,500. We don't know though how far, how long the trail actually was that she went on. Other questions?
32.
34. Watch on 34. This is a lot of what we're going to do today. So if you watch now, hopefully the other stuff will be sort of easy. They say, they describe a line to us. They tell us it goes through the point, -1, -3, and is parallel to CD, line CD. C is something, D is something. C is -1.7. Again, this is a lot of what we're going to do today, so if you follow along right now, this will help out a bunch. If two lines are parallel, what do I know about them?
There's
Same slope. So same slope, or slopes are the same. Alright, so the slopes are the same if they're parallel. The bad thing is, do I know the slope of CD? No, but could I find it? What's my y coordinates for C and D? So 7 minus 1 goes on top. What's my x coordinates? Be careful. -1 minus 5. What is 7 minus 1? -1 minus 5.
-6.
So what's the slope of that line?
1 over -1.
1 over -1. If you left it that way, it's not a good mathematical form, but for slope, I'd be accept that, because what's this tell us that the line does?
Goes up 1 to the left 1.
Up 1 to left 1, up 1 to left 1, up 1 to left 1, over and over again. So now let's come out here. We draw a little graph here. Your graphs don't have to be anything special, but if you one of those people that you're a little anal about your pictures and stuff, and you need graph paper, it's always laying over there on the side. -1, -3. -1, we go over 1, down 3. That's point A. How am I going to find the other points that fall on this line? We know that those slopes are the same because they're parallel, right? So what is it?
Up 1 to the left 1.
Up 1 to the left 1, up 1 to the left 1, up 1 to the left 1. Our line's going to look something like that. That doesn't look right. Should it be a line going down? Was our slope positive or negative? It was negative, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So should our line be going down?
Yeah.
So that's our line. Now, could we graph the other line, and it's going to come out here somewhere, -1, 7, it's going to be somewhere like in there, 5, 1, 5, 1, somewhere in there. What should be true about those two lines? Mine look pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah, they look like they're probably parallel. So, two lines are parallel, slopes are the same. Two lines are perpendicular, slopes are what? Opposite reciprocals. What is today? 7th. Today's the 7th. Go ahead and start copying this down. What we're going to cover. And again, leave those papers lay out. I'll get them from you here in a second. What we're going to cover today, writing equations of lines, solving problems using linear equations. Hopefully, in algebra, if you remember any of your stuff from algebra, which I know you remember a little bit, because y equals mx plus b, you told me earlier. Hopefully, if you remember writing linear equations, that's all we're going to do today. Oops. All right, looking at these lines. Pick a line for me.
Red.
This one? All right. So if we pick this line, and we want to write an equation for this line, we're going to write it in this form, y equals mx plus b. You already told me earlier when we were doing the cell phone thing, what two things do we need to know there to write that equation? M and b. Can I find the slope of the line just looking at this picture here?
Yeah.
Can I find the y-intercept of the line just looking at the picture? And the y-intercept's probably the easiest one, so let's find b first. Somebody tell me what b is for that orange line or red line, whatever.
8.
4.
Oh,
4?
4 or 5.
I'm sorry.
How about the slope? How am I going to find the slope?
Pick another
Pick
point
2
on that
points.
same line and then
Pick 2 points. Rise over run. How much did I rise? 2. How much did I run? 4. Is it 4?
I think I.
3 or 4.
3.
3.5.
What's wrong with that?
1/2. Over 1.
Can't you just leave it as a fraction?
What's wrong with the 4?
Oh, it's -1.
Oh, that makes sense.
It's going to the left. So make sure you don't forget that. Line should have a negative slope. So rise. Overrun, will that reduce?
Yeah.
What's that reduce to?
-1 or 1 to -2.
Now, does it matter if the negative's on top or bottom? No, it makes no difference. So write it -1 over +2 or +1 over -2. Doesn't matter. Don't put a negative on both of them because what's a negative divided by a negative? Positive. What's my equation for that orange line then? You gave me both things. You told me we needed.
Y
equals
That's our equation for the orange line. It's that simple. If you can remember that stuff, it's that simple. And a lot of them are even going to be simpler than that.
So V is just where it crosses.
He's where it crosses the y-axis, and slope is rise over run.
Okay.
Pick another line.
Green one.
The green one. I highly suggest that you write this down. On this green line. Again, we need to find B and M. Oops, I don't know why I put 0 in there. That 0 is not there. What's the y-intercept for the green line? 2. About the slope? 0. That's where I should have wrote 0. How do you know the slope of that 0?
Because
It's horizontal.
It's a horizontal line. All horizontal lines have a slope of 0. What's my equation for the green line then?
Y equals 0, x plus 2.
Does everybody see that? Now watch carefully on this. These are ones that you just have to know. 0 times x, what's that always going to be? 0. Do we need that then? So what's the equation for that green line? Y equals 2. Write this down somewhere in your notes. What kind of line was that line? Horizontal lines. When you're writing an equation for a horizontal line, anytime you're writing an equation for a horizontal line, it's always going to be y equals some number. I can put this underneath it. In other words, the equation has no x's in it. So anytime you see an equation that says y equals 5, y equals 12, y equals -3, you know it's what kind of line? Horizontal.
Can you just write no slope when you say it has no slope?
No, because it did have a slope. What was the slope of it?
2.
0. The slope was 0. The y-intercept was 2. We're not, remember, when we're writing an equation, that has something to do with the slope, but is that all we're finding? So this is our equation of that line. This right here tells us exactly everything that we ever need to know about that line. How about this one over here, the purple one? What's the slope and what's the y-intercept? What's the slope? It's undefined. We don't have a slope, right? What's the y-intercept? Crosses the y-axis at 0?
Don't cross.
It doesn't cross the y-axis, so we can't find that either. So how are we going to write an equation?
0 is
Put
a thing.
y
No, it does have an equation. All lines have some kind of equation.
equals. Put y equals.
So I can just put y equals. What's that going to tell the next person that looks at it?
Y equals undefined.
If you put y equals, it's going to look like it's what kind of line? Horizontal.
Yeah, that's
So make sure you write this down. Anytime you have a, what kind of line is that purple one? Anytime you have a vertical line. Vertical lines sort of mess everything up because they don't fit all the rules. Anytime you have a vertical line, your equation's always going to be x equals some number. So it has no y's in the equation. It's always x equals some number. So if it's a horizontal line, it's just going to be y equals some number. If it's a vertical line, it's x equals some number. All right? If it's a diagonal line, then it's something like y equals 2x plus 5. Question, Ethan?
Isn't there a specific name for equation that has like y equals like 5x, for instance?
No, you mean without the number on the end?
Yeah.
Yeah,
What, I just.
doesn't matter. It's just going to cloud up your mind because it doesn't really tell you
I know
anything.
you told us it last
Yeah, that's
year, I was
serious.
trying to remember it.
Write it down, skip a couple, 3 lines in between each one. We're going to put some other stuff in there, stuff that will help you remember back to algebra and understand why we need 3 different forms. Why is this called slope-intercept?
Because it finds the slope.
You need the slope and the y-intercept, and that's one of the things I'm going to tell you. To write. So to write an equation, and each of these I'm going to sort of write the same thing on. To write an equation in this form, what do you need? You need the slope, which is m, and what else? The y-intercept, where it crosses the y-axis. That's the b. So you need those 2 things. If you know those 2 things, you can write an equation directly in that form for any line. The other thing that we're going to write on each one of these forms to help you to understand why there's 3 forms and not just one. Because everybody wants to say, well, why didn't you just teach us one form? We don't have to know all 3. Because there's different things that you need them for. Thinking back to algebra, what's this good for? Graphs. That's what I would write. Graphs. Y equals mx plus b. If you're on a graph or drawing something on a graph, that's what the form you want it in. The other thing, and I might say here, if you have a graphing calculator, then you probably want it in that form, because that's all the graphing calculator understands. It doesn't understand standard form or point slope form. I'm going to skip down to standard form, then we'll go back up to point slope form. What's standard form? To write an equation in standard form, what's different about standard form? All right, x's and y's all on one side, regular number on the other side. All right?
Yes.
Unlike this one, slope-intercept has what on one side all by itself? Y. Y on a side by itself, that's slope-intercept. All the x's and y's on one side, standard form. What do we need to write something in standard form? Maybe.
X and Y.
You need to know the,
Travis is having trouble because there's no good way to do it. Michael, is there trouble back here? Then relax. Listen. Quit talking. So, to write this, we're not going to hardly ever write something directly in standard form. All right? Now, I say that. The other day when we were doing the problem with Mike Mustang, what form did we write those equations in? Standard form, right off the bat. So, sometimes you will, not near as often as the other stuff. What is it good for? What kind of problem did we do the other day? All right, it's good for algebra stuff. Usually when you're trying to solve, you want it in standard form. The other thing that you could put that it's good for, real life or real world problems. So like with Mike Mustang, he had so many motorcycles, so many cars, we could use that. But you're never ever gonna, most of the time you won't just say, oh, well, I know A is 5, I know B is 12, I know C is 22. That won't happen. Which question, Ethan?
The only way like we would ever write it isn't it like if we switch to forms or something?
Right. Usually standard form you have to switch, and we might write that down here. To write in standard form, switch from other form. If you want to write something in standard form, if you need it to be in standard form, then you probably got to switch it from one of the other two forms. To write an equation in point slope. This is the one that nobody seems to like. This is the one I like the most because it makes everything easy.
I like that one.
You like point slope? Most people don't seem to like it. To write something in point slope, what's the name tell you that you need? Point and slope. So I need a point on the line and what else? And the slope of the line. Sorry, I started writing in cursive there, I didn't mean to. Point on the line, slope of the line. The reason this one's usually a little easier than something like this, if I told you that you had a line at a slope of 3, and I gave you some point on it, 25, 80. Do you really want to draw a graph and try to figure out where that line is going to cross the y-axis at so you can write it in this form?
No, sir.
No, not with those big numbers. So a lot of real world stuff is good with this and not with this. Thing it's good for, thing that makes this a nice form, is it makes it easy to write an equation. Makes it really easy to write an equation. So if you're given a point and a slope, makes it real easy to write an equation from that information. All right, let's make up something. Help me out, Hannah. Give me a point. 15.8. Give me a slope. Emily G, give me a slope. You just had to follow him.
She's gonna follow it out later.
Couldn't come up with something like that. All right. Can I write this directly in slope-intercept form?
No.
Because what don't I know? I don't know the y-intercept. Right? And don't get confused and start saying, all right, m is 1/2. That's true. But is b, is it 8? No, because this isn't the y-intercept. All right? That's just some point on the line. So I'm going to start off and write it in point slope form. And all you're going to do, you might want to, maybe on your paper there, do this on point slope form. Maybe circle that, circle that, circle that. Those are the 3 spots that you plug into. Plug into those 3 locations. So I got this. What am I going to put in place of y sub 1 this time? That's the y coordinate, so that's what I put in place right there. So I get y minus 8 equals, what do I put in place of m? 1/2. What do I put in place of x sub 1? The 15 from the point. That's our equation. That's the equation of the line. Now the bad thing with that equation, if they want you to graph it or they want you to do anything algebraic with it or anything else, is that in a good form? So this is what you need to be able to do. Once you have it in that form, you need to be able to switch it to the other forms. And I'm going to show you, it only takes 2 steps. First thing you do, distribute out this slope to everything inside the parentheses. So you get y minus 8 equals, what's 1/2 times x? 1/2 x, good. What's 1/2 times negative 15? 7.5, 7.5. I'd accept it either way. All you do, distribute there. Now, how am I going to get it into slope-intercept form? What else do I have to do? Add the 8 on both sides. All right, so if I add 8 on this side, add 8 on this side, now I'm left with y over there. If you want it in slope-intercept form, is that what you want? Y on the side by itself? What's still on the other side? 1/2 x plus 0.5. Now I'm going to change that back to 1/2 because if you got a fraction here, you ought to have a fraction there, not a decimal. What form is that in? Slope-intercept. Could I graph it now? Watch so you remember how to graph it. Where do you start at? Start right there at the 1/2. Go up 1/2, put a dot. What's this slope tell us to do?
Wait, I know.
Can you slow down a little bit?
Yeah.
Where'd you get 7.5?
When I multiply 1/2 times 15, half of 15 is 7.5. What's negative
Okay,
7.5 and positive 8? Everybody caught up? Sorry, I'm going a little quick because it's.
Yeah, you just move along.
I remember.
I caught up, so now they're going.
If I graph this, I go to 1/2 first, that's my y-intercept. What's the slope tell me to do?
Go
Up 1,
right,
to the right 2. So I go up 1, to the right 2. Where'd I go from there?
up 1 to the right. two.
Up 1, to the right 2.
1 to the left 2.
You could go down 1 to the left 2. Our line's going to look something like that. Now, if we have this, what if we wanted it in standard form?
Wouldn't you just add 1/2?
Sort of. Yeah, the 1/2 x,
Oh,
right?
you have to, yeah.
Before I do that, in standard form, remember back to algebra, can you have all these fractions in standard form?
So changing the decimal.
So,
It
can't be a decimal either.
Can't be a negative.
What could we do to get rid of that? Multiply everything by what?
1.
2 over.
2 over 1, or just
It's
2.
opposite.
What's 2, not the opposite reciprocal, just the reciprocal. What's 2 times y? 2y. What's 2 times 1/2 x? 1x.
Yeah.
What's 2 times 1/2? Now, is that in standard form?
No.
I'll subtract 1x on both sides. Get negative 1x plus 2y equals 1. Is that in standard form?
Yes.
It's close, and if you left it that way, I wouldn't throw a big fit. All right, last year in algebra, you should have learned that's not standard form because that can't be negative out front.
Times everything by 1.
You just times everything by not just 1, by negative 1. And all that does is do what to every sign? Change the sign. Oops.
It's only the x that can't be negative.
Yep, it's only the x that can't be negative. It's the leading one, whatever's out front.
So it's the y up front, it can't be negative.
Well, the y should never be out front because to be in standard form, it's got to be the x, then the y, then the regular number. All right, we'll go back to some easier stuff. All right, write these down. Skip a little space, doesn't take a whole lot of space. Skip a little space in between each one. We're going to work them out together. They want us to write this in slope-intercept form. What is slope-intercept form again?
Y in there.
Y equals mx plus b. Do we know m this time? What is it?
Okay.
Do we know b this time? What is it? That's all you got to do. If they tell you the slope and the y-intercept, that's your equation.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Go up. There ain't nothing we, if that's all they wanted was the equation in that form, we're done. How about the next one? Do we know the slope? Yeah, right there. Do we know the y-intercept? Now, be careful. Ethan's saying yeah, but they gave us a point. Now, you could do point slope, but what's the x-coordinate here? It's 0. If I graph that, 0, -2, is that on the y-axis? So this right here is our b, it is our y-intercept, but that only works if in that point the x-coordinate is what? 0. So if they gave you some other point like 5, 4, does that mean your y-intercept is 4? No, so don't get that confused. That only works if that number right there is 0. So what's our equation?
Y equals -6 x, would it be -2?
Is that a negative? That's our equation. Somebody tell me how to graph that. If I'm going to go up here and graph this,
You go down to,
that, all right, down 2, that's right there, right?
down 3 to the right 5,
Down 3, 1, 2, 3 to the,
right 5,
or I could go
up 3 to the left.
up 3 to the left 5. Our line should run something like that. How about the last one? 3x minus 4. That's something. So if they tell you slope, if they tell you the slope and the y-intercept, all you got to do is plug into the m and plug into the b. What's different about the directions here? They want it in point slope form this time. Point slope form. You're going to be able to here in a minute.
What's your name? I'm just wondering.
Miss.
No, bro. I think
I know yours.
what's his name?
I don't have to tell you that. I see it on your paperwork all the time each year. Go sometime when you're in the library, look up something. But there's some stuff in there that probably would tell you my middle name.
Is it Junior?
No, that's my last name.
No, I just looked at that.
No, that's my third name.
You have 2 names?
Yeah, something else on me.
But Junior is the last part of my
So
name.
you are a Junior.
So you're Eversole.
All right, on this. What is point slope form? Let's write it down real quick.
Y minus
If you're having trouble with this, I highly suggest you pay attention.
equals m into x minus x.
Remember, we plug in here, we plug in here, we plug in there. Those are the only 3 spots. You don't mess with the y or the regular x. All right, they stay y and x all the time. So tell me how I write this first one. Y plus 1, Thomas said. How come it's plus 1?
Because 2 negatives make positive.
You put in a -1, and you got minus a -1, what's going to happen to that sign? Turns to a positive. Everybody see that? Or do you want me to write it out?
No, you're good.
So I do this, y minus a -1. What's going to happen there? Plus, right?
Why is that? Let's do negative equals a positive.
2 negatives right next to each other make a positive. Now what's m this time?
Oh.
3 over 2. X stays the same. What's x sub 1 this time?
4.
It's 4, and it's going to be minus 4 in there. So if you stick a negative in to one of these 2 spots, it becomes what? Positive. If you stick a positive in, it stays negative.
Oh, I knew that.
All right, stays or minus. This is y plus 1. Is that in slope or in point slope form? That's all we got to do. Tell me how to write this next one real quick. Y minus 5.
Parentheses, X-7.
3 x minus.
Yeah, pretty good.
Is that too difficult?
No, not at all.
Could we switch that to slope intercept form if we want to?
Yeah, let's not.
We distribute and then do what with this 5? Add it to the other side, and that would give us the y all by itself.
What if we like,
It ended up looking something like this.
what if we like added the 5 first and then
You
distributed?
can't add the, well, you could if you put plus 5 out at the end, but then that'd make it more confusing. Looking at this, watch, because this is some of the problems on the homework. They're going to say something like this. This is our equation. This was the answer to that one. This was the answer to that one. This is in slope-intercept form. Tell me another line, or give me the equation of a line that's parallel to that line. This last one down here. What's it mean to be parallel? They have the same slope. So give me another equation of some different line that's parallel to that.
3x plus 19.
So y equals 3x plus 19. Is that line going to be parallel to that one? Yeah, give me another line that's parallel to that original.
X plus 4.
Y equals what?
Yeah.
Are you gonna take these?
So, is that line parallel to it?
Yeah.
Give me another one.
Y equals 3x minus 6.
Y equals 3x minus 6. Now let's do a little harder one. Give me a line that's perpendicular to this line.
Y equals 1/3.
Y equals negative 1/3
Negative 1/3
plus
Plus 7.
x plus 7. Does everybody see that? Make sure you remember, slopes should be what if the lines are perpendicular? Opposite reciprocals. They flip over and you take the opposite. So you have that. So if you have that, that's what you should be listed. You have this, 3/1. What's the opposite reciprocal of that? Negative 1/3. So this line is what to this line? Perpendicular. All right, that's the assignment.
140.
Make sure you write it down.